Second one, what sort of doubts? We have doubts. What sort of doubts? Hmm? Skeptical doubts, not ordinary doubts. So we have so many kind of doubts regarding this world and life and this and not. A skeptical doubt means, now take for instance this Four Noble Truths. You heard. And you can understand. But your former belief, faith, or preconceived ideas that prevail in your mind, reject. So wholeheartedly, you cannot accept this kind of doubt. Maybe. That is your mental attitude. So as long as we maintain that attitude, we never get the chance to attain the first stage. Must have clear understanding of this Four Noble Truths. That is the second. Third one, Silabbata Parama. Attachment to various kinds of rites and rituals and ceremonies that people perform in the name of religion, thinking that through these practices they can wipe out the sins that they have committed, they can please God to forgive them. If not, they can please the Buddha by offering and burning papers in front of him. And thinking through these practices they can find out their final goal, salvation. It is an illusion. Almost in every country, in every religion, there are many kinds of rites and rituals and ceremonies, especially in China and India, these two countries. Well, many people have already curtailed, reduced, minimized as much as possible, but still they cling to these things. So they feel uneasiness if they have not performed it. So the Buddha's advice is you should not cling to this kind of rites and rituals and ceremonies. But don't mix up these rites and rituals. Certain practices we perform in the temple. They are not under rites and rituals, like offerings of flowers and lights and fruit, whatever you like. Because one thing, through these practices, you don't believe directly you can find out your final goal. Therefore, be free from that. Again, these practices are not based on superstitious belief, significance, meaningful. We can explain the significance of these practices. And even then, when we go on developing our spiritual, the mental attitude, those things also we cut down. Not very important, although they are harmless. Not very important because devotional aspect is very important at the beginning to cultivate our religious way of life. Without devotional aspect, we cannot practice a religion. But later, through these practices, we can develop our spiritual development. So, as long as we maintain this belief that through these rites and rituals, all these practices such as cutting and burning and poking here and there and sacrificing animals and torturing their body in various ways, starving without taking food and without sleeping, without taking medicines when they are sick, all these are under rites and rituals. So the Buddha's advice is, through these practices, it is impossible for you to get rid of the effect of your bad deeds, evil deeds, and to find out your final salvation. When these three kind of beliefs are no more in your mind, then it's very easy for you to attain the first stage of sin. These two stanzas are very interesting.
Sahavassa dassana sampadaya tayassu dhamma yahita bhavanti sakkaya ditthi vichikichitancha sīlabbataṃ vāpi yadathi kinchi chatu hapaye cha vippamutto cha cha vitthānāni abhabbo kātum idampi sanghe ratanam panetam etena saccena savatyoti. Yes, there are many things for us to discuss under this. This language, sahavassa dassana sampadaya tayassu dhamma yahita bhavanti sakkaya ditthi vichikichi. This is one word actually. Vichikichi, one word, although we have separated. Vichikichi, vichikicha, doubt. Vichikichitancha, sīlabbataṃ vāpi yadathi kinchi, chatu hapayehi cha, chatu hi apayehi cha. If you want to get the meaning, you have to recite like this. Chatu hi apayehi cha vippamutto cha cha vitthānāni abhabbo kātu. For him, with acquisitions of insight, three conditions come to naught, namely self-delusion, doubt, and indulgence in wrong rites and ceremonies. Should there be any, from the four states of misery, he is absolutely free, and is incapable of committing the 6 heinous crimes. Verily, in the Sangha is this precious jewel. By this truth, may there be happiness. Actually, we have discussed these items on various occasions. Still, there is no clear understanding in our minds. The main reason is, whatever religion teaches, certain belief and traditions that we have started long ago. Whether right or wrong, meaningful or not, we are not ready to give up. To give up, we must have a very clear understanding and strong conviction, confidence in you. Otherwise, you feel that you have not done your duty because you have accepted them as your duties. This is the danger of our traditional practices. Because when we analyze or define according to our human history or religious history, how or when, where people have started these practices, we can understand. If we can understand these things, many of those practices are insignificant, no meaning at all. Even then, very difficult for us to give up. It is due to a lack of confidence or weakness in our mind. The Buddha tried his best to develop this understanding in the man's mind. That is the main purpose of his mission, to wipe out so many wrong concepts and beliefs and traditions and customs they have been practicing for thousands of years. But even then, people are not ready to give up. This is our weakness. Anyway, let us discuss and see. Sahavassa Dassana Sampadaya. So after achieving or gaining this insight means the development of our own mind. That is called insight. Again, you can see the difference here. In Buddhism, our method is to develop everything within ourselves. But all the other religions teach us to invite something else from outside. Now this is the difference. But we cannot satisfy. We want something else from outside. Certain other forces, sources, energies, concept and belief, and then invite God and spirit and ghost, all external influence. In the Buddha's teaching, he never referred to any of those external things for the spiritual development. Everything we had to cultivate, develop, suppress, control, eradicate within ourselves. But this is not easy to practice and easy to understand. How to develop, how to gain without any influence or external inspiration. That means always we depend on something from outside. We have not learned to understand, to analyze our own mind. Because of that, the mind is always clouded. All our potentials, energies are submerged, and external influence, our own belief and imaginations, completely covered. Therefore, we cannot bring up insight. When you take simple example, how people can get certain information from our mind under the influence of hypnotism. Hypnotism has no religion. It is not a religious practice. But under the influence of hypnotism in many parts of the world, mostly psychologists who can understand the nature of the mind, hypnotize person. So what will happen to our mind when we are hypnotized? We stop taking external objects into our mind. Then the normal mind is not active, become passive. At that time we cannot create imaginations or concepts. Otherwise, while listening, reading, thinking, we use that normal mind which is influenced by various other external sources. Now you are listening to me. You are focusing your mind. Even then, so many other things, external things, which you have accumulated in your mind, mix up. Therefore, your senses disturb your concentration. That is why it is not so easy for you to grasp anything. So when we hypnotize a person, at that time he is not dealing with the five senses and normal mind to create imagination. Then what they do? They focus that mental energy into the subconscious mind. That is called a storehouse of consciousness. Everything that we have learned, experienced as our mental habits, according to our attachments, desire, knowledge, languages, the subjects that we have studied earlier, not only within this lifetime, during our previous birth, not only one previous birth, so many previous births, accumulations of all our mental habits according to our desire, anxieties, craving, attachment. All are deposited. At the moment, we cannot use them. Submerged, covered. When you refer to the Buddha's saying in Anguttara Nikaya, Sutra Pitaka. It's a very meaningful, of course all are meaningful, but for this particular subject it's very meaningful. Pabhassaramidang bhikkhave chittang tanchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilittam. That means, normally our minds are very clear, very luminous, bright. That means a pure mental energy. It is pure, clear. Tanchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilittam. Later, all the external objects that we grasp through our senses completely pollute the purity of the mental energy. Now this is the nature of the mind. So we are maintaining a polluted mind, so that this pollution take place in two ways. In that taste there is desire, craving. It is some sort of mental pollution, although it is good for you. Sometimes it is good to you, but not to others. Very bad for others. Therefore, there is nothing here in this world we can say, good or bad, to each and every person. To some people, very good. To some others, very bad. Let us take medicine. After taking one kind of medicine, you feel very good, very effective. Then you recommend the same medicine to another person who suffers from the same sickness. To that person, this medicine can become a poison. Of course, medicine is good. Food. You like certain food. You can digest very easily. Therefore, you recommend another person to take the same food. And that person say he cannot digest. He had a stomach complaint or vomiting. So one person's food is another person's poison. One person's medicine is another person's poison. Therefore, there is nothing here in this world we can say good or bad, but we measure this according to our taste. So good things in worldly sense also pollute the purity of the mind. Then the bad thing which we don't like, we say bad. But to some others, good. So these two feelings always pollute the purity of the mind. So we continue this mental state until we attain the highest stage. After that, there is nothing here in this world we can take into our mind as good or bad. We have gone beyond that worldly sense. So, now can you say whether the Buddha is good or bad? What do you think, whether he is good or bad? To you he is good. To many others he is very bad. Many others introduce him as a devil. This is the nature of good and bad, how we define. But the Buddha has gone beyond this good and bad limit, what we measure. Can you say nirvana is good or bad? Both you cannot find in nirvana, either good or bad. Because this craving for good and bad is no more in nirvana. Free. Otherwise we never experience complete satisfaction in our life. Today you say, yes, very good. After some time you say, I'm not interested. That the thing that you say good is no more. That goodness is gone. So here, what we are trying to do, trying to penetrate into that subconscious mind. Since we cannot do by practicing our own method, so through hypnotism, it's a simple method, only for the time being, only for a few minutes. So penetrate, focus that normal mind into that subconscious mind. Then influence. And get so many informations from this subconscious mind. So at that time, speak entirely different language that we have never studied within this lifetime. There are so many cases. And information, certain incidents, names, early part of the life, which we have forgotten completely, but recorded in the subconscious mind. That is why, when once we have committed a bad karma or sin, we have forgotten. But the effect of that karma never disappears. You cannot wipe out that. And the good karma also the same. Never disappear from your mind. So one of the discourses, as the Buddha says, whatever you accumulate within this lifetime as your valuable things, others can take away. There is no guarantee that others cannot take away from you. Your money, your property, your jewelry, your houses, your lands, anything whatever you like, others can take you. Others means not only living beings, fire, water, wind, natural disaster, also wash away everything that you have accumulated. The government also can confiscate your property. When the dollar is devalued, the value of dollar also gone. But only thing here in this world that no one can devalue or wipe out, take away from you, is your own karma. Either your good karma or bad karma that you have accumulated in your mind. Nobody else can touch. People believe, of course, due to their ignorance, that God can take away your sins, bad karma. That is only a belief. But it is impossible to take away your good karma or bad karma. You are responsible for that. You are responsible for that. So these mental habits that we have accumulated in the subconscious mind. So we divide into these two groups, or in fact can divide into three groups. Certain things good, so we introduce them as good karmas. Certain things are bad, bad karma. So in between there is another group, neutral, which cannot create either good effect or bad effect. Three kinds. All are there, but they are habits. You know, we have certain habits, neither good nor bad, but mere habits. We cannot define them as morals or immoral, good or bad, habits. Very difficult to remove our habits. I can tell you a very simple example. When once we use our mind for something for a long period, very difficult for us to forget that. Without thinking purposely, automatically we go there. I can tell you what happened to me. When I want to go and take my bath, so I take out my glass and keep outside and go and take my bath and pick up my glass. Last few days, I went inside the bathroom with this. I kept this one inside the bathroom. After taking my bath, I came out and went searching my glass outside. Then I remember it is inside the bathroom. Happened on many, many occasions. This is the nature of the mind. When once we use this mind for something for a long period, the mind automatically, that is computerized. So the good and bad karma, I will always explain this to you. Although it is a minor karma, when once we used our mind for a long period to do that, very easily we can recall this into our mind. So these wise people, they can continue this, because at the dying moment, this can help us. Because during our lifetime, we make a lot of mistakes. We do bad things. We know they are bad, but still, mind is not steady. Certain human weaknesses are still there. So we have to cultivate this gradually. Can jump at once to wipe out everything. Because of that, at the dying moment, although we have done a lot of good karma, accidentally, one of these bad karmas can appear in the mind. Then the other good karmas remain behind. The bad karma has taken the initiative. Therefore, when we use our mind to do something, some good deeds, a very good karma, as our habits, this can help us at the last moment. The mind is like that. Then, through hypnotism, it is not a secret, and no one can deny. In fact, they approach certain countries and certain governments asking them to allow for them to cure certain sicknesses through hypnotism. But government are still not recognized officially. Otherwise, they can cure many sicknesses. Here you can understand how mind can create sicknesses. Many of our sicknesses due to the influence of our own mind with that mental pollution. So in the reverse order, when you hypnotize a person, remove that wrong concept, wrong belief and imagination, fear, suspicion we maintain in the mind to create certain sicknesses, can remove. That is what they are doing. Then that sickness also disappears. Mostly a skin disease. So this is not a religious subject. The Buddha has developed this through his meditation, because it is not temporary. This hypnotism we can maintain for a few minutes or few hours. After that again the mind becomes normal mind, normal way of thinking. That development is no more in the mind. When we close that subconscious mind, after that we cannot use it. That is why here we use the insight. We try to develop our potentials. We have cultivated, we have learned, we have deposited. Then the hindrances we come across because of the external thing that we have accommodated later through the five senses or imaginations or belief. When you stop these external influences, imaginations, these objects we take into the mind through the senses, then again the mind gets the chance to relax. Then can penetrate. After that, develop our intrinsic mental energy that we have deposited as our habits. We have a lot of potential hidden, cannot use our talents, our ignorance, imagination, or the environments completely eclipsed, covered. So when we meditate, what we do, we try to remove these dark clouds from the mind. And then again, slowly, we can see the normal mind and reduce the pollution from the mind. But we had to continue this. Just like a sample meditation, when you practice this, you don't experience anything. For the time being, you say, yes, very nice. After that, you forget everything. That is why here, in this, you see, when you take one line here, this sutra, you can understand what a deep dharma is there. These are not mere words for you to utter like mantras. Every word convey deep meaning, virtues, qualities, wisdom. When you recite, we have to concentrate. You must think what we are reciting. If you can understand what you recite, then you get more confidence, more knowledge, more devotion, then can concentrate. This chanting is not for us to listen just like listening to your music. When you listen to music, you don't follow the meaning of the words or the morals or the ethics or examples or advices. No. You follow the rhythm, the tune, music. You concentrate on these things. In your concentration, when you listen to your music, there is no devotion, there is no confidence, there are no virtues. And nothing to learn also. You may learn more bad things. But you can concentrate. You feel nice. Why do you feel nice? Because you get some sort of soothing feeling. Calm your nervous system by following the tune or the rhythm or the musical tune. Only for the time being. As soon as you stop this, again start the talk. But this chanting is not like listening to music. You have to listen with some sort of confidence and devotion. Then, not only for calming your nervous system, to calm the mind. Music cannot calm your mind, arouse your feeling, create excitement. But this chanting calms the mind. The mind is calmed, and the nervous system and everything slowly become normal. So, the disciples who have developed this insight, that means eradicating the mental pollution from the mind and penetrating this mind to develop, to get more information, more confidence by using the mind through the same tract. So what happened to us today? We cannot catch the same tract in our mind which we used during our previous birth. So we are using another tract. Now that's why confusion takes place. Those who have developed medicine in their previous birth, or languages, or science, or religious subject during the previous birth, due to certain confusions in the mind at the dying moment, rebirth has taken place somewhere else, and in that place, the life becomes entirely different. The family background, education, morals, values, understanding are entirely different. Because of this situation, we cannot use the mind according to the same track that we used during our previous birth. But these habits still remain in our subconscious mind. If you can study child psychology, you can understand the intrinsic talent of a child. Whether this child is good for this or that, you can, if you are wise, you can understand. But by force, you drag this child into another field, another area, and give him another kind of education, then create disturbance. So this method, development insight, means we go back to the same track to find out how far we have developed this. Then continue. After that can develop easily. Now if your minds are confused, if you create your own imagination due to external agencies' influence, you cannot use your own mental habits. Therefore, you must understand our natural habit, natural talents. After that, we can continue from there. That is why, to some people, religion is not very appealing subject to their mind, not pleasing, not interested. To some others, in spite of various problems and difficulties also, never give up. They like. To them, that is the most interesting subject in their life. Then they can continue very easily that way of life. So religious life does not mean that spending their life just like slaves to their religion. That is not a religious life. And we should not surrender our intelligence and understanding to religion. By using our common sense, we had to practice a religion without suffering in the name of religion, without wasting our valuable time in the name of religion, respectable way, normal way, by cultivating certain principles and some good qualities. So we can lead our normal life. To us, that is the real method. Then later we won't get disappointment, because we have molded, we have adjusted our way of life as religious life according to our own conviction, not according to somebody else's opinion or advice. So if you are going to follow this master and this teacher and that teacher and this school and that school and all these things, you create a concoction of religion in your mind and create more confusion and lose your confidence. You don't know where to go, what to do. This is the situation in Buddhism in Malaysia. No confidence. You can boast, I know all these schools. You must have one method, one system. What will happen to you when you are sick? Medicine is medicine. You can prove that it is true, right? Then you go to a Western doctor, get tablets and all sort of things. Then you go to a Chinese sensei, and he give a big prescription. You go and buy one packet of Chinese medicine. Then you go to an Indian doctor, Ayurvedic medicine. He also give one big packet. And again you go to a Bomo or somebody, he also give another one. You put all these things together and boil and drink and see what will happen to you. You can see all these are medicine. That's what people say, after all, that is also religion, this is also religion, but you don't know, you are following stupid way. Because that is not the way to practice a religion. You make concoctions of everything and you never experience good result, after that you blame religion also. This is the unfortunate situation of Buddhism in Malaysia. Because Buddhism in this country is a mixture of all these things. But you had to accept, you had to practice your religion according to one particular system and method. You should not try to justify, oh, that is also religion. But no need to discriminate or criticize or condemn. Leave them alone. But you must have your own method. That is why you cannot experience any good result. And no confidence also. Still in this first line. All right, it will come to the second one. 3 conditions come to naught. That means 3 conditions means 3 obstructions, disturbances for our spiritual development, to gain or for the development of insight. There are 3 obstructions at the initial stage. Now what are those 3? Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikiccha, Silabbata Paramas. The words are very easy to understand, but the concept and the method and the realization are not so easy. So the first one, Sakkaya Ditthi. Self-illusion. What is that? Until we maintain that there is something. So this belief is very, very strong in our mind. Concept, the belief of self. What is that self? When we use this word self, we create our own imaginations in our mind. Because we do not know what it is. That is why we create imagination. Why do we create this concept of self? For what purpose? Without this, we feel life is nothing. Dull. So we want something to keep in our mind, to depend on, to satisfy our desire, our craving. Otherwise, the craving disturbs the mind. Must have something. You go on reducing all your craving. Now you have no more craving. But you cannot give up this craving. You cling to this concept. What is that? That word, self. Now this is the biggest problem. All the other religions nurture this concept. And people like it. According to the analytical knowledge that the Buddha used through his enlightenment, he realized this is only a man's imagination. illusion, imagination, misunderstanding, misinterpretation. But all these things they have done to console that burning thirst of craving, to quench, to satisfy that craving. As soon as you maintain this, yes, there is self, there is soul, there is spirit. After our death, this spirit, or this soul, or this self, settle down somewhere. And there we can experience permanent, everlasting, unchangeable, eternal, all the sugar-coated words we use for that. But we do not know, all these are imaginations. If we can define unbiasedly by reducing that craving, by maintaining that craving, you cannot define this one, because you feel very unhappy. You define this in your worldly sense, worldly way of thinking. So when the Buddha has revealed this truth, many people felt it's not very favorable, not appealing to their mind. Please remember, truth is not there to please you. People cannot understand. But you want some sort of truth to please your mind. That is why you cannot satisfy. Truth is not in our favor. It is unbiased. So our duty is to understand what this truth is, but not to console one of our mental impurities or defilements or cravings. If there is some sort of truth to console our craving, it is not a truth. The very day when you'll be free from this concept, this belief, there is something to go and settle down, either in heaven or nirvana or somewhere else, then that is the first item. To attain the first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna, that is the first qualification. You think it's so hard? It's very difficult. Difficult to understand, difficult to practice, difficult to follow. Yes, truth is like that. Not so easy. We can find out everything in this world, but not the truth.